Kia ora koutou, through the chair. Good afternoon. I don't have a presentation. We had a workshop with you on this a week or so ago, so I thought I would just very briefly introduce it and then happy to answer questions. I've got colleagues in the room as well if it goes into detail. But just a reminder, these are the second and third bills on the Three Waters reform. The first bill was passed at the end of last year. These two were presented to Parliament and kind of popped out the end for submissions just on Christmas time. So we've only really had a couple of months to work on this. We have effectively focused on 6 particular themes. Overall, consistent with the Council's positions over the last few years, the Council opposes the reforms. There are elements that we support, but overall oppose the reform, and particularly the way in which the reform is going about what it's seeking to achieve. The 6 elements in particular that we're focusing on in this, again, are consistent with the positions held in the last Council. Firstly, around the separation of stormwater functions to Council's planning and land use functions, opposing that. The second theme is around accountability, so that's the governance arrangements and Council's lack of involvement or control in these new entities. Land assets and transfers, one that's slightly different, but opposing any transfer of open space assets, Council's open space assets, into the new entities. Funding and financing, continuing the position there around it is unclear what the implications are on Council's finances and balance sheet as a result of the Three Waters reform and what will happen and when it will happen when debt is removed, etc. So there's still some real lack of clarity there. Economic regulation, there is support for economic regulation, particularly of 2 waters, potable water and wastewater. Unclear as to how that will work for stormwater, so that's the real question there. And then the 6th and last kind of theme is the transition between now and July 2024, and then economic regulation coming in 2027, and some real concerns about how that's going to work. Mr. Chair, I will leave it there and happy to answer questions.
Just before questions, I'll get a mover and a second of this. I'm happy to move this, and the Deputy Mayor will second that. Questions now. Anyone want a question? Councillor Walker.
My question just goes a little beyond this, and it goes to the position that Council is going to take, given the magnitude of this. And as we know, this dismembers the Council in respect of taking a great deal of our responsibility around water away from us. And I would suggest that there is huge community opposition to this. There are other councils around New Zealand that have taken, I would suggest, a much stronger position than we have. So the issue that I would raise, Mr. Mayor, and I've raised this before, is around whether this council will embark on a more aggressive campaign, which might involve promoting our stance more aggressively to the media and encouraging the public and various organisations to get behind us, to associate more assertively with other councils, like Christchurch and others, that are taking a stronger position than us. And given that this is very much a politically driven issue, and this is election year, a more assertive and aggressive stance on our part is timely. So that is a question that I'm just asking. It goes beyond A, B and C, but it's important. Thank you.
You're asking me to answer that? Where are the staff when I need them? We have it. Our submission does say we oppose this. My main submission is that it won't work alongside other things. I have had discussions with the Prime Minister, and he's well aware that my view is that they've been able to, and no one's been able to explain how the service delivery of water in Auckland will be improved by having 40 irrigation schemes from Northland added, and nor have they been able to explain how 40 largely irrigation-based Northland ones will be better by being managed out of here, whose skill sets are about domestic supply. There is no answer to that. The government is the government. They have a majority. They can pass what they like, and they've passed this. And so we've made our statement. We have to live with the government. I'm very much a trader. We've made our opposition known to them on the stage, but on the other hand, there's a whole lot of other things we want to have a good relationship with over as well. So they're quite clear that we oppose it. If anyone wants to march in the street about it and take it further, well, I'll take advice. But we've formally stated quite strongly at the front of this that we oppose it, and we've got a lot of reasons for it. And you have to have faith in the fact that it goes before House committees, and we are doing at this stage here what we are required to do as a submission. If you want to raise other things about that, then that's beyond this particular requirement that staff have produced a submission which does represent what they've heard from around the council table. So you have to lead it yourself, and then I'll follow if you want to. But I just think strategically at the moment we're playing quite a good game in the middle, and we have opposed it formally. Is that right? Those of you who wish to stand for the government at the end of the year, it's only cost $200, and you can form a party and have a crack, but I'm not interested in that. Councillor Newman, you're prepared to stand for Parliament, or just ask a question?
Megan, I have a question. I got a question with respect to: have you received any further advice from officials following on from the flood in relation to this quandary, this jurisdiction of the stormwater assets in the road corridor versus the stormwater assets that connect to and from that road corridor, which would sit with this new water entity? The bill was a dog on this matter before the floods, and I would imagine that the floods have clarified the extent to which this is now unworkable. Can you clarify?
I've had no specific conversation with any officials, certainly in DIA or government, around that particular issue. It's clear, though, around this table, and certainly from most staff's views, that the floods have shown that it is hard enough now, and it will be, I'm not sure if impossible is the right word, but very, very difficult if it's separated. The other separation, of course, that is proposed in the bill at the moment is urban stormwater and rural. So councils will keep rural, but not urban. That doesn't make sense either, obviously. So I completely take your point. We've tried to put that in the submission. We can have another look to make sure that's strong enough, and we'll continue to work with the officials on that over the coming months too.
Thank you for that. I think you'll find that under the current definition that the entire Wairau Valley is now going to be taken over by Three Waters because it's clearly a stormwater asset. I don't think that's what they had in mind, actually. I should imagine there's a lot of nervous thinking about parts of this. I had a meeting with the Prime Minister, and we did discuss that water delivery and sewerage was possible to separate, but he'd have a lot of trouble with stormwater, and that was before the stormwater assets include the entire grape growing area of Hawke's Bay. Councillor Turner.
Mr. Mayor, just in some of my talking in water care in my lead councillor role, some of the conversation talked about the hiatus of activity on the ground, which happened between the changeover from council to water care as it is now. And I'm just very concerned about this making a hiatus in activity on the ground, this changeover, especially now in respect to what we've experienced with the floods. The last thing we want right now is any hold-ups in progressing with maintaining and improving our stormwater.
Very good point. Okay, there are no further questions. I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary? Well done. I'm going to propose a half-hour break for lunch.